I started to study this book, Think and Grow Rich. And he talks about belief in here. He says you're not ready for what you want until you believe you can get it. Well, our belief system, now listen carefully, is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently when we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. We have awesome powers, and it's all based on what you believe about you.
What if I told you that 2 simple words have been shaping every experience in your life? Words you use every day without a second thought, yet they may be quietly working against you, keeping you stuck in the same struggles, disappointments and frustrations. This isn't superstition, it's not wishful thinking, it's the very foundation of how reality takes shape, and most people are unknowingly getting it all wrong. The hidden trap of your own words. The words I am are not just words, they are the most powerful force in your existence. They are the creators of your world, the architects of your destiny. Every time you speak them, you command unseen forces to bring your statement into reality. You are not simply describing yourself, you are instructing the universe to confirm your words and make them true. And yet, almost everyone uses I am to build a prison instead of a kingdom. Neville Goddard, one of the most influential teachers of spiritual manifestation, warned about the careless use of I am. He did not speak in metaphors or empty inspiration. He revealed an ancient truth that had been hidden for centuries, a truth that could either transform your life or ruin it, depending on how you use it. But before we get to the solution, you need to understand the trap. Imagine a person who constantly says, I am unlucky. Every time they repeat this phrase, they are not simply complaining, they are giving a command. The universe is listening, always responding, and it delivers exactly what it declares. They see their life filled with misfortune, reinforcing their belief. But the truth is, it wasn't fate. It was their own I am trapping them. They created it over and over, without realizing they were the ones building their own suffering. You might say, but I don't say those things. Yet listen closely to your thoughts. How many times have you thought, I am tired, I am broke, I am unworthy, I am not good enough, I am stuck, I am failing? Every single one of these statements is a seed planted in the soil of your reality, and what you plant you must harvest. This aligns closely with Ralph Waldo Emerson's words, particularly in his essays on self-reliance and compensation. Emerson, a key figure in transcendentalism, believed that every action and thought has consequences, much like planting seeds that will inevitably grow and shape one's reality. His essay, Compensation, discusses the idea that the universe operates on a principle of cause and effect. What one sows, one reaps. Ralph believed that everything we do, think or say has an effect on our lives, like planting seeds that will eventually grow. He talks about how life always balances out. If you put good into the world, good will come back to you. If you put out negativity, you will face challenges in return. This idea is similar to the saying, you reap what you sow. If you plant kindness, hard work and positive thoughts, your life will reflect that. But if you plant negativity or bad habits, you will have to deal with the consequences later. Emerson teaches us that we are responsible for the reality we create, just like a farmer is responsible for the crops they grow. The power of I am is not a theory, it is law. It is written in ancient texts, repeated in spiritual teachings, and confirmed in modern psychology. In Exodus 3:14, when God tells Moses, I am that I am, he is not just giving a name, he is making a profound statement about existence itself. This phrase means that God is self-existent, unchanging, and the ultimate creative force. But beyond that, it also reveals something deeper, the power of I am as a creative declaration. When God says I am, he is stating absolute being. He is not becoming, wishing, or striving, he simply is. This mirrors the idea that whatever follows I am shapes reality. God was showing Moses that divine power works through declaration and affirmation, and since humanity is made in God's image, Genesis 1:27, this means we too have the power to shape our reality through the words we speak and the beliefs we hold. Yet most people do the opposite. Instead of using I am to affirm strength, success, or peace, they unknowingly create limitations with negative statements. These statements are like planting seeds in the soil of life, except they are weeds that choke out potential. Instead of affirming their creative power, people unknowingly reinforce struggle, doubt, and failure. Neville Goddard often explained that the world outside of you is nothing more than a reflection of your inner state. Your words, your beliefs, your feelings, they do not just exist in your mind, they create the world you live in. If you constantly affirm I'm struggling, you will see struggle everywhere. If you say, I am not lucky in love, you will experience heartbreak again and again. This is not a coincidence. It is cause and effect. The tragic irony is that most people do not realize they are doing this to themselves. They blame external circumstances, bad luck, or even other people, never understanding that the root of their suffering is in their own words. They unknowingly become prisoners of their own declarations. They use I am to shackle themselves to pain rather than to liberate themselves into joy. There is a well-known parable about a farmer who plants two types of seeds, one for wheat and one for poison. The soil does not reject the poison, it simply grows whatever is planted. The mind is the same. It does not judge whether your I am is good or bad, true or false. It simply manifests it into your reality. Every time you say I am something, you are planting a seed. The question is, what are you growing? This is why some people stay stuck for years no matter how hard they try to change. They think the problem is outside of them, but the real battle is within. They change jobs, change relationships, change locations, yet nothing improves because they have not changed their I am. The prison is in their words, and until they change those words, nothing else will ever change. But there is a way out. There is a way to reverse the damage, to escape the invisible chains, to take back control. It begins with awareness, seeing how you use I am, and recognizing the hidden power behind it. This is not about forced positivity or pretending things are perfect when they are not. It is about understanding the fundamental truth of creation. What you declare, you become. The hidden power of your assumptions. If the words I am shaping your life, then what fuels those words? What gives them their undeniable power? The answer is hidden in something so subtle, so deeply ingrained that most people never notice it. It is not just what you say, it is what you assume. Your assumptions are the silent architects of your reality. They dictate what you expect from life, what you believe is possible, and most importantly, what your I am statements truly mean. You may say, I am happy, but if deep down you assume life is hard, that happiness won't last, or that suffering is inevitable, then your words become powerless. The assumption wins every time. Neville Goddard taught that assumption is not just belief, it is a force that molds reality. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he said, and persist in that assumption. But most people do the opposite. They assume failure, struggle, and limitation. They assume that they are stuck, that life is unfair, and that good things happen to others but not to them. And because they assume these things, they unconsciously declare them through I am over and over without realizing the damage they are doing. Think about this. If a person repeatedly says, I am successful, but in their heart they assume that success is beyond their reach, which one do you think shapes their life? It is not their words, it is the assumption behind them. The universe does not respond to empty statements. It responds to deeply held truths, the ones you carry inside without even realizing it. This is why change often feels impossible for so many people. They try affirmations and they repeat positive phrases, yet their lives remain the same. The reason? They never change their assumptions. They continue to assume scarcity, loneliness, rejection, and hardship, and so their I am remains tied to those realities. They unknowingly sabotage their own transformation. In the personality and social psychology study of Gabriele Oettingen and Doris Meyer, it was discovered that merely indulging in positive fantasies or affirmations isn't enough to bring about change. People who only repeated positive statements like "I am successful" or "I am abundant" without confronting the real obstacles they face often ended up less committed to their goals. Their affirmations felt empty because they didn't match up with their underlying assumptions or the challenges in their lives. The study showed that when people combined their positive visions with a clear-eyed look at the obstacles in their path, a process called mental contrasting, they were more likely to commit to the necessary actions for change. This approach forces you to address and alter your deep-seated assumptions about scarcity, loneliness, or hardship. Neville tells a story that reveals the raw power of assumption. A man once came to him, desperate for change. He wanted a better job, more money, and a new life. He had tried everything: hard work, positive thinking, even prayer, but nothing seemed to work. Neville asked him a simple question: "What do you assume about yourself when no one is listening?" The man hesitated, then admitted, "I assume I am a failure. I assume I am not good enough. I assume nothing works out for me." That was it. That was the root of his problem, not his job, not the economy, not bad luck. It was his assumption about himself. Every attempt at change had been built on top of that rotten foundation. No matter what he did, his assumptions always pulled him back into failure. But assumptions can be changed, and when they are, reality shifts in ways that seem almost miraculous. Neville told the man to stop focusing on external circumstances and instead focus entirely on changing his assumptions. Assume you are already the person you want to be. Not tomorrow, now. The man resisted at first. His old beliefs fought against it, but he persisted. He began to feel successful before any evidence showed up. He walked as if he was already the man he wanted to be, and within weeks, opportunities that had once been closed to him suddenly opened. Life responded to his new assumption. This is how powerful the assumption is. It does not wait for permission. It does not ask for proof. It moves ahead, shaping the world in its image. Your entire life right now is a reflection of what you assume to be true about yourself. So, take a moment and ask yourself, what do I assume? Not what you wish was true, not what you hope will change, but what you deeply, instinctively believe about yourself and the world. Do you assume love is hard to find, that money is scarce, that you are not worthy? These assumptions, not fate, are what determine your experiences. The good news is that assumptions can be rewritten, and once they are, your I am will begin to work for you instead of against you. But how do you change something so deeply ingrained? How do you shift assumptions that have been with you for years, maybe even decades? That is where the real transformation begins. Rewriting the story of who you are. By now you understand that your I am statements shape your life, and that behind every I am is a powerful assumption silently dictating your reality. But here's the real question. Can you rewrite the story of who you are? Can you break free from years of conditioning, old beliefs and limiting assumptions that have held you back? Neville Goddard's answer was clear: yes, absolutely. But here's the catch. Most people try to change their lives from the outside in. They switch jobs, end relationships, move to new cities, and chase success, all while carrying the same internal identity. It's like painting over a broken wall. The cracks always resurface. True change happens from the inside out. It happens when you stop treating yourself as a victim of circumstance and start consciously reshaping the core of who you believe yourself to be. This is not a theory, it is a law of consciousness. And the way to do it is by deliberately assuming a new identity through the power of imagination. This is relevant to the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, which emphasize the power of consciousness in shaping reality. In this tradition, the self, Atman, is seen as identical to Brahman, the ultimate reality, meaning that our inner consciousness is not separate from the external world, but rather the source of it. Vedantic philosophy teaches that our perception of reality is shaped by our deepest beliefs and assumptions. If we see ourselves as limited, separate, or powerless, we reinforce that experience. However, through Jnana Yoga, The path of knowledge and creative visualization, a practice found in yogic traditions like Raja Yoga and Tantra, individuals can reshape their inner identity and, as a result, transform their external lives. This idea is also echoed in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which describe the process of samskara, mental impressions, deep-rooted patterns in the mind that dictate our behaviors and experiences. By deliberately shifting our assumptions and mental patterns, we can break free from past limitations and assume a new identity, aligning with the law of consciousness. Neville taught that imagination is not daydreaming, it is the creative force that molds your world. Imagination is God in action, he said, and if you do not take control of it, it will continue running on autopilot, reinforcing the same patterns you've been living. So what does this mean in practice? It means you must embody the version of yourself that already has what you desire. You must feel as though your wish is already fulfilled, not as a distant possibility, but as a present reality. And you do this by stepping into a new I am. Let's say you've struggled with money all your life. You might unconsciously carry an identity of I am broke, I am always struggling, I never have enough. Even if you get a sudden influx of money, this identity will sabotage it. You'll lose it, spend it, or experience setbacks that drag you back to where you started. Now, imagine if you fully assumed a different truth. Imagine if you adopted the identity of I am wealthy. Money flows to me effortlessly. I'm always taken care of, not just as words, but as a deep, unshakable reality within you. At first, your mind will resist. It will tell you, that's not true. Look at your bank account, look at your past. But this resistance is proof that your old identity is fighting to survive. And the way to overpower it is through persistence, by continuing to assume the new I am until it becomes second nature. Neville often spoke about the power of the state akin to sleep, a drowsy, relaxed state where your conscious mind is quiet and your subconscious is most receptive. This is when you plant new assumptions. Before sleep, visualize yourself as the person you want to be. Feel the emotions of already having what you desire. Experience the scene in your mind as vividly as possible, as if it were happening now. The key is feeling. It is not enough to say the words. You must feel the reality of your new identity. This is what impresses the subconscious mind. And once the subconscious accepts a new assumption, your external world must shift to match it. This is not wishful thinking, it is how reality works. Your outer world is a mirror of your inner state. Change the state, and the mirror reflects something new. There is an old story about a man who was locked in a dark cell, convinced he would never escape. He sat there for years, believing the door was locked, assuming his fate was sealed. But one day, out of sheer desperation, he pushed the door, and it opened. It had never been locked. The only thing keeping him trapped was his belief that he was imprisoned. How many doors in your life are wide open, yet you assume they are locked? How many opportunities are waiting for you, but you refuse to see them because your I am is still tied to struggle and limitation? You are not bound by your past. You are bound only by the identity you refuse to let go of. Breaking the chains of the old self. If you've come this far, then you already understand that your life is shaped by the I am statements you live by. You know that behind those statements are assumptions and that your reality is nothing more than a reflection of what you have unconsciously accepted as true. But here is where most people struggle. They try to create a new identity while still clinging to the old one. They say, I am abundant, but still act from a place of lack. They affirm that I am loved, yet hold on to the fear of rejection. This is why their lives don't change. You cannot step into your new reality while still feeding the old one. The two cannot exist together. One must die so the other can live. Neville Goddard often spoke about dying to the old self. This is not a physical death, but a transformation so profound that your past self no longer has power over you. It is the process of releasing everything that no longer aligns with your new identity. Old fears, old doubts, and most importantly, old reactions. This is where the true battle takes place. It is not against the world. It is not against the circumstances. It is against the urge to react as the old you. Think about this. If you were already the person you desire to be, how would you react to life? How would you respond to challenges, setbacks, or delays? Would you panic? Would you doubt yourself? Or would you remain calm, knowing that your reality is already reshaping itself in your favor? The key is to discipline your mind and refuse to react from the old self. Every time you react with fear, anger, or frustration, you reinforce the identity you are trying to leave behind. But if you choose stillness, if you refuse to be shaken by appearances, you are proving to your subconscious that you truly are the new version of yourself. Neville gave an example of a woman who wanted to manifest a loving relationship. She had been abandoned in the past, and deep down she assumed that men would always leave her. She did everything, affirmations, visualizations, but nothing changed. Why? Because every time a man showed interest, she reacted with fear. She questioned his intentions. She braced herself for disappointment. She was still living as the I am of someone who gets abandoned. The moment she realized this, everything changed. She stopped reacting to her old identity. Instead of fearing rejection, she assumed love was inevitable. Instead of doubting, she acted as if the relationship was already hers. She embodied a woman who was loved and cherished, not just in words, but in feeling. Within months, she met the love of her life. This is how reality shifts. It does not respond to surface-level words. It responds to the energy you carry, the identity you embody. Now you may wonder, how do I stop reacting? The answer is simple but requires practice. You must develop awareness. You must become the observer of your own mind. The moment you feel doubt, fear, or frustration creeping in, pause. Do not react. Remind yourself, this is the old self. I no longer identify with this. This is not suppression, it is mastery. There is a parable about a wise man who was constantly insulted by a villager. Day after day, the villager threw insults, trying to provoke him, but the wise man never reacted. Finally, the villager asked, "Why don't you respond? Why don't you fight back?" The wise man smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift but you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" This is the power of non-reaction. When you refuse to accept the gift of doubt, fear, and limitation, it no longer belongs to you. You have broken free. And once you master this, reality will have no choice but to reflect your new identity. The world is simply a mirror. When you change, it must change too. Locking in your new reality. Now you know that your world is simply a reflection of the identity you assume. You've also learned that true transformation requires breaking free from your old self, refusing to react as you once did, and fully embodying a new state of being. But here's where many people falter. Even after making progress, even after shifting their beliefs, they find themselves slipping back into their old patterns. It's as if the past self refuses to die completely. They wonder, why do I keep ending up in the same situations? Why does doubt still creep in? The truth is simple. They have not yet sealed their new identity. Neville Goddard taught that once a new assumption is fully accepted, reality must conform to it. However, until it becomes second nature, there is always a risk of falling back into the gravitational pull of the past. This is why the final step is locking in your new reality, making it so firm, so unquestionable that nothing can shake it. This is where many fail because they expect instant external proof. But reality always lags behind assumptions. If you plant a seed, do you dig it up every day to check if it's growing? No, you trust that it will. The same applies to your new self. If you constantly look for signs, constantly question, is it working? You are already affirming doubt. And doubt is just another way of saying, I am uncertain. To seal your new reality, you must do 3 things. First, you must enter a state of complete knowing, not hoping, not wishing, not waiting, but knowing. Imagine you already have everything you desire. How would you feel? How would you move through life? This is the feeling you must carry every single day, whether or not external circumstances have caught up yet. Neville often spoke of the importance of living in the end. He told the story of a man who desired a better job, but kept affirming from a place of lack, "I hope I get hired. I need this opportunity." But these statements only reinforced his current state of not having. When he finally understood the law, he stopped asking and started assuming. Every night, he went to sleep imagining himself already working in his dream job. He felt the satisfaction, the joy, the security. He didn't need external confirmation. He knew it was already his. Within weeks, the job manifested effortlessly. This is the key. Once you know something is yours, you no longer worry about how it will happen. You no longer obsess over timing. You simply move through life as the person who already has it. The second step is persistence. This is where many lose faith. They practice for a few days, then fall back into old doubts. They expect overnight changes, and when they don't see them, they assume it's not working. But reality is a delayed mirror. It takes time for the outer world to catch up to the inner shift. Hermetic philosophy teaches that the external world is a reflection of the internal state, but that reflection is not always immediate. The principle of correspondence is often summarized as above, so below, as within, so without. This means that inner change eventually manifests as outer change, but the process is not instant. The delay between thought and manifestation is where many lose faith. They assume their efforts aren't working because they don't see immediate results. But Hermeticism teaches that persistence is key because reality operates on its own cycles and timing. The principle of rhythm states, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. Change happens in waves, not straight lines. People expect rapid transformation, but true shifts require consistent effort before results appear. Just like the seasons, the seeds of new reality take time to grow, but they will grow if nurtured with persistence. The reason most people give up is because they don't understand the delay between internal change and external results. Ancient traditions like Hermeticism, Buddhism, and Taoism all emphasize that reality moves in cycles and patience is necessary. The key is to persist beyond doubt, to trust the process even when no evidence has appeared yet. The mirror of reality is delayed, but once the inner shift is real, the outer world must eventually reflect it. Those who persist through this phase are the ones who break free and create lasting change. Neville used the example of a pregnant woman. Once she conceives, she doesn't wake up every day wondering, is the baby really growing? She doesn't question the process. She knows that in due time the child will be born. This is how you must treat your desires. Once the seed is planted in your imagination, it is done. The only thing that can stop it from manifesting is your own doubt. The final step is detachment from the old reality. This is the hardest part because the old world will still try to pull you back. You might still see the same circumstances, people might still treat you the same way, but none of it matters unless you react. The moment you react, you reinforce the old. When you truly shift, the old world begins to break apart. It may even seem like things are getting worse before they get better. But this is just the old self dissolving. If you remain firm, if you refuse to waver, a tipping point is reached, and suddenly everything transforms. There is a story about a man lost in a forest at night. He keeps moving, hoping to find his way out. But just as dawn begins to break, he feels exhausted and sits down, believing he's still lost. What he doesn't realize is that he is only a few steps away from the edge of the forest. If he had just kept going a little longer, he would have been free. How many people give up just before their reality is about to shift? How many fall back into their old ways when they were moments away from a breakthrough? This is why persistence is everything. You must hold your new state no matter what. When doubt whispers, ignore it. When the world reflects your past, stay firm in your future. When nothing seems to be changing, remind yourself, the seed is already planted, my reality is catching up, and once you reach that point where nothing can shake your conviction, you have locked in your new identity. You will never be the same again. Becoming the master of your reality. You've discovered the importance of discipline, persistence, and unwavering faith. But what happens now? What happens after you've shifted into a new identity? After you've planted the seed, persisted through the storm and reached the tipping point where the old world crumbles? This is where most people get stuck. They feel the transformation happening, but they fear losing it. They ask, how do I make sure I don't slip back into my old patterns? Neville Goddard taught that true mastery is when you no longer need to practice, when your new state of being becomes effortless. You don't have to try to be yourself, you just are. This is where you are headed. At this stage, your only task is to remain at rest in your new identity, not forcing, not doubting, not questioning, simply being. Neville often spoke of the Sabbath, a state where you no longer strive because you know the work is done. It is the deep, quiet confidence that what you have imagined is already yours. When you reach this level, you don't need constant affirmations or techniques because you have fully embodied your new reality. Think about it. Does a wealthy person wake up every morning and repeat, I am rich, I am rich? No, they simply know it. It is their natural state. Does someone who is deeply loved constantly seek reassurance? No, they just are loved without question. This is where you must place yourself, not as someone trying to manifest, but as someone who already has. The danger of slipping back. Even when you've made the shift, there will be moments when the past tries to pull you back. Old triggers, familiar doubts, and external circumstances that look the same as before. This is the final test. The world operates on momentum. Just as a fan continues spinning after you turn it off, your old reality may still seem active even when you've changed inside. But if you remain firm, if you refuse to react, it will fade away. A man once asked Neville, how do I know if I've truly shifted? Neville answered, when you can look at your old reality and feel nothing, no frustration, no fear, no attachment, just indifference. This is true freedom. You no longer react because you know that what appears in front of you is simply a shadow of your past self. You are already living in a new state, and it is only a matter of time before the world fully reflects it. Friedrich Nietzsche, particularly his concept of amor fati, love of fate, and the Übermensch, overman, from Thus Spoke Zarathustra, taught that true power comes from transcending attachment to past identities and circumstances. He saw most people as trapped in reactivity, constantly at the mercy of their past experiences and societal conditioning. But the Übermensch, the higher version of oneself, is someone who has completely detached from the old self and embraced a new reality. One of his key ideas, amor fati, love of fate, means accepting everything that has happened with total indifference, not as something to regret or fear, but as something neutral, even necessary. He wrote, my formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. This aligns with Neville's idea of knowing you've shifted, because once you truly step into a new state of being, the old reality loses its emotional grip. The past becomes nothing more than a shadow, something you observe without frustration, fear, or attachment. Most people struggle because they try to control how and when their desires will manifest. But control is resistance, and resistance slows everything down. The paradox of mastery is this: the more you let go, the faster things happen. Neville compared this to a farmer planting seeds. He does not stand over the soil, demanding it to grow. He plants, he trusts, and he moves on with his life, knowing that the harvest is inevitable. You must do the same. Once you have assumed your new identity, live as if it is already done. Walk through the world with quiet confidence. Smile, knowing that what you desire is already shaping itself into form. Do not chase. Do not question, do not force, simply allow. You are no longer the person who doubts. You are no longer the person who struggles to manifest. You are no longer the person who reacts. You are the creator. This is no longer just a theory or a technique. It is your way of life. From this moment forward, choose your I am consciously. Choose the identity that serves you. If fear arises, smile at it, knowing it has no power over you anymore. If doubt whispers, ignore it like distant noise, because you are already walking in certainty. The world bends to your assumption. It always has. Now you know how to use this truth. Now you are free. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.